computer problems, but I think I got all the updates done, and I think we're good. Let's see here. I think I got all the updates done. Sounds working good. All right, cool. Let's just jump right in, start with some quizzes, do 4 or 5 of these, and then see how the day goes. So it looks like soft live.
Hey guys, Lexi Gavin here, and today we're going to go over a hand that I played in
Ooh.
I played at South Point for fun with some friends. And so yeah, let's jump right into the action here. So the blinds are 50, 100 with a 100 big blind ante. Most of the live tournaments now are big blind ante, so that means the ante comes from the big blind only instead of the whole table anteing, just the big blind. This is actually really nice. It saves a lot of time. So here, folds to us on the button, we have 8, 7 of spades. What would you do? Fold, call, raise to 200, or raise to 300?
Now it's hilarious because I know this tournament she's talking about. This is the exact tournament that I was talking about. I was playing 3 to 5 times a week. I was playing it 2 to 4 times a week before the Delta variant kicked up back in August, just for like a month and a half. It's a good tournament, soft tournament. A lot of local regs who've never read a poker book and have been doing the same thing for 30 years and think they're gonna one day get better. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm raising all the time, and it's always 3x in these things. You got to go bigger. So there we go.
All right, so here I definitely think we should be opening, and because it's early on in the tournament and we're 100 big blinds effective, I think I like to go 3x the big blind. So we go 300 here, the small blind flats, and the big blind comes along as well.
Not uncommon.
The flop is king 4-3 rainbow. So checks, small blind checks, big blind bets 300. So big blind's leading out into a pot of 1,000. So what would you do here? Would you fold, call, or raise to 1,000?
Well, she said king 4-3, but we're looking at 6-4-3. So if it's 6-4-3, I'm raising. If it's king 4-3, I think I'm calling because of the backdoor equities and stuff. I guess we call based on this board.
So I think with our overcard, our 2 overs, and our backdoor equity, we have backdoor spades, and we also have a gut shot to the nut straight.
I think I said it backwards. If it was king 4-3, I'd be more inclined to raise. If it's 6-4-3, I'm more inclined to call. I think I said that backwards.
I think with all that, we probably should call. We could consider raising as well, but this is a board that the big blind is gonna connect with. He can have all of the 2-pair combos like 6-4 suited, 4-3 suited, even maybe 6-3 suited, and so I think he is gonna be leading with some of his 2-pair combos. I also think he is gonna have some just like random 5x combos. So maybe he has a hand like Ace 5 that he just wants to try and take down here on the flop.
4-5, 6-5, Ace 5, all those easily defend. The 5-7 is there, yeah, but we still have outs versus that. And I kind of like him having a 5 because as long as he doesn't have a pair with it, it means that we're well ahead. And even if he only has a 4-5, then when the 8 comes off, we're good. Backdoor spades, we're good. So you'll see this very commonly where players are trying to set the price to draw when they don't realize they actually have the equity. So if this player has a hand like 6-5, he should be going for a check raise if he's a really good player. But I would think a standard play here would be to lead out and just try to kill the pot for 800. You know what I'm saying? If you have 6-5 here and you lead for 800 and you get any kind of significant action, you can kind of figure that you're up against the overpair, and then you can just weigh your equities. You have 2 6s, you have 3 5s, and you have the open-ender, versus a pair of aces, let's say. Nice work you putting in, my man. Thanks, Gray Fox. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, this is the I was thinking about. It's funny. I'm glad somebody came in early because I was thinking about sending you good lucks to win the next big one. Next one big. Yeah, I'm thinking today is a play day, so hopefully I'll take that right today. I was thinking about, this is the minimal part of my study, what you guys see, the hand quizzes. This is just kind of like wake up my brain and, a little shadow boxing before we get in the ring. But I was thinking I might, because I want to redo the tournament masterclass from Jonathan Little. I've already done it I guess technically I've done it 1.5 times, but I'd like to go through it again completely in successive days and just take a day, like an hour a day, and go through it again. And it's nice because it's split up into little sections, and then there's a quiz at the end of it, based on what you've learned. And you have to use all the tools like Equilab. You have to use the tools like, the pre-flop charts and stuff like that. So I'm curious if people would want to see that, because that's a little less instant gratifying interaction as these here, but it's much more deeper study, and it's another way for me to put out a lot more content, and it'll kind of motivate me to get through the tournament masterclass, because it is like 80 hours of video content. It's a lot. So I was thinking about that, so think that over and let me know what you think about doing that. So all right, let's continue with this though.
So I think we should come along for the ride and
New nails.
see what happens on the turn. So now the turn is the 10 of spades, and the big blind continues for 750 into a pot of 1600. So what would we do now? Would we fold, call, or raise to 2050?
This is another one. Sounds nice. Yeah, I think it would be interesting. It's kind of daunting to think about doing it, because it would take a large commitment of streaming an extra hour every day. But I think it's doable, and I think it'll be fun. We'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, then I can always just do it in my off time. This is a turn card that's like the best turn card in the deck for us right here. There's two schools of thought. One is we don't want to get blown off this amazing draw where we have all the equity in the world, because we can get a 9, we can get a 5, we can get a spade. We can probably get an 8 and still be good, honestly. And there's another school of thought that says our opponent is not betting very correctly. He's betting 750, so I think he's trying to set a showdown price. And there's two ways to look at that. One, he has something like 6-5 or 4-5, and he wants to make sure that he draws for the price he sets. Typically when players do that, I'm like, no. So we just raise, and I'll do it with nothing. I mean, there was a lot of examples of that. Oh, it's coming up in the next Jedi Mind Trick. But I think in this specific instance, I honestly like a call, because there's still, even if we miss, there's a ton of bluffing opportunity here. Any card, honestly, a queen or higher that gets checked and we bet, I think we win this pot a lot. And I think we have a lot of naked showdown value, you know what I'm saying, like for an 8 and things like that. So I don't really mind just letting this river come off and then going from there. Lexi is a much stronger cash game player than me, but I believe our frequencies are the same on tournament play. And I think in this specific instance, this is one where I would be calling, setting up a river play if I miss. So it's kind of like a double float. So I like the call here a lot. And knowing that tournament the way I do, I really like the call.
So here we've turned some extra equity. So now we have a flush draw. We now have a double gutter. So a 5 gives us a straight and a 9 gives us a straight. So I think we can apply pressure here. I think that if he just has a 5, then raise.
See, here's the problem. And here's the problem with where she's going with this. I know what this is. And I agree with her. This is a great spot to apply pressure because of our massive amounts of equity and our positional advantage. But knowing this tournament the way that I do, this player is not going to fold unless it's something massive. If he has a 5 here, especially if he has a pair like 4-5, 3-5, 6-5, this player is never folding. Ever. I know these guys. 90% of the dudes in that room don't have it in them to say, well, that costs too much to draw for the straight. So your raise on this turn would have to be to like 3,000. And here's the thing. It's a rebuy tournament, and they're very early, and it's a $60 buy-in. You're going to get jammed on a lot. Now, do you hate that in this scenario? No, I don't hate it, but I don't think it accomplishes the immediate goal of winning the pot most of the time, which is what we're trying to do. Granted, rebuying is fine. I used to always show up to the tournament with 2 or 3 rebuys, willing to take these gamble shots early. But in the instance that she's trying to coach in a real tournament that isn't this soft, you'd want to secure as many folds as you could. So I think you have to let the river come off here. And if it comes off a deuce or a 7, you can just give it up cheaply. But if it comes off pretty much anything else, you can probably just bomb this and win. You know what I mean? So I see where she's coming from, and I agree for 90% of tournaments, but for this specific tournament at the South Point, I don't agree. It's not even a harsh disagreement. I think, she gave me 8 points for the call, and the raise is, 10 points. If this raise was 3,000, I probably would have made it. But it's just too small, because it's always going to get called by that 5. You know what I'm saying? Then, yes, the river's going to miss most of the time, and we're going to be able to win, and we have pumped up the pot. But also, when a player's never folding, you want to charge them. You want to charge them much bigger. You might even go 4,000 here, just to make the guy make a decision for all his chips on the draw right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were representing jacks, that's what you would do. Even aces, that's what you would do. So I see where she's coming from, and I 70-30 agree with her.
Raising here on the turn is going to put a lot of pressure on him to fold a hand like that. And also, if he has a hand like... I see a lot of recreational players will lead out with just kind of like weakish pairs. So I can see him having a lot of like 7-6s here, maybe a hand like king 6 suited, maybe even like 4 or 5 suited. So I think that we should put in the raise here. So we go 2,000 and he calls. We could have gone 2,050 like I had asked earlier. It really doesn't matter.
Shocking.
So now the deuce of spades comes on the river. So he checks. What do you think we should do here? Check, bet 3,600, go all in.
Well, now that you've put yourself in this predicament, I don't think, it's a deuce on the river, which is a hidden backdoor flush draw. I feel like if the guy was betting with the 5, then he would continue betting because, the spade came off. Now, there are some players who will, bet on the draw, get there, and then not value bet just because they see 3 spades, and that is a common thing at that tournament. Many times I've seen it happen where a player bet at me twice, and then the river came off, and it was the spade, and I had to figure them out, and I went, I wonder if he'll fold for this much. And I would just jam, my whole stack in, and it usually worked. Unless the guy was just a retard or had seen me do it before. But I think we just go for value here. I like 3,600. I think that's fine. Personally, I think I would go right around, 36 is fine. I don't think we want to go to 4,000 because that seems a little too scary for the other player. We want to get called by a 5, and we want to get raised by that 5-7 sometimes, or the ace-5, which happens, when the person has the ace of spades and the 5 of clubs or whatever. I think a standard value bet is fine here. There's a lot of merit to going all in because we may get hero called because we may look like bullshit. But then again, this player has played very passively, so I think that the bet is fine.
So this is a pretty great river. We have backdoored our way into a flush, which is another reason why it's good to, play these hands with backdoor equity, right? If we had just folded the flop, we never would have had the opportunity to hit our flush. So we're definitely going to be betting this for value. This is a really great situation because there's now 4 cards to the straight, and we definitely think that he could have a lot of 5x combos on the flop. So we really need to choose a sizing that we think he's going to be able to call with. If he doesn't, it's kind of a close situation because we could be really polarized here and shove and, hope to look like we're bluffing.
But not in this tournament because these players aren't that thinking. You know what I'm saying? When we jam, they're just going to go, oh, he has a flush. Even if there's no reason for you to have a flush. They're just going to be like, oh, he's got a flush. I've actually seen players in this situation when I've jammed, and they've shown me hands like that bear 5 with the ace 5 and gone, I know you got 5-7, and they just fold. And I'm just like, I actually had one time where I made $10 off the guy. I was like, $10 says you're wrong. And he had already folded, and he goes, I'll pay you $10. And I was like, all right. And I showed him like King Jack in this situation, and he was like, how do you bluff? And he gives me the $10, and then he told me I was the worst player in the world as I'm stacking his chips. think I ended up coming in third in that turn. No, we chopped it 3 ways.
In which case, if he has a 5, he's most likely going to be calling. But I don't, I think that if he doesn't have a 5, then it's going to be hard to get value.
That's the thing. We're kind of looking to get hero called here by like a 6, you know what I'm saying? 7-6. There's a world in which he can have a 10, with a weird pair like 6-10 or something like that. Although I think he bets 2 pair. And we could just look like we have ace king. So, if we bet for straight value, like kind of a bad bluffy size, which 3,600 is bad for a bluff. I think we get called by ace 6 a lot, especially if the ace of spades is in the guy's hand.
Value, right? So we have to choose a sizing where we think he's going to get value, where we're going to get value from his 2-pair combos, right? Like in the event he has 6-4 suited or 6-3 suited, like we thought he could on the flop. I think that we should go somewhere around 3,600. I know it is a little bit on the bigger size, and like I said, we could have gone a little smaller, but I also think we could have gone bigger to look bluffier. So we chose 3,600, but I think there's a range of bet sizes that would work on this board. So he calls. He has 6-4 suited, just like we thought, and we want a pot. I don't think that he would have called too much more. I mean, he is more of a recreational player. I do remember that. So maybe a larger sizing would have gotten called, but I think we probably got close to maximum value that we could with our flush. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this quiz, and I'll see you.
I agree, because you'd be surprised how often recreational players will hero call you for a bigger bet than they will with 1 pair, than they will with 2 pair, because they don't learn that the strength of your hand is intrinsic until you get much better at playing poker. 2 pair is easier to call with than 1 pair. It makes it less likely that your opponent has what's on the board. So players go, oh, I got 2 pair, but this guy's got a straight. And recreational players love showing you a power hand that they folded. They all want to be Mike McDermott. You know what, Teddy, I'm laying this down. Top 2 pair, that's a monster, and I'm laying it down. When Teddy's chewing the Oreos. They all want to have that moment. I have seen guys fold top set to me where the only hand that beat them was a straight. And I had no clue they had top set because they never raised. They limped 10s pre-flop, and it came off 10, 9, 7, and then an 8 came on the turn, and then a 4 on the river, and they're just like, you have queen jack. And it's like, why would I ever have queen jack here? And that one I remember specifically. I was heads up with that guy. We were heads up, and he did that. And it's like he went for the trap, he had me baited and hooked, and then I just jammed the river on him, and he folded. And the funny part was about that one is that he immediately showed me the top set, and I actually thought he called. Thank God I have the instinct of poker face, where I look at the center of the table and I keep the dealer in my peripheral. If the dealer doesn't act, nothing's happened yet. So I'm just staring at the center of the table. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw his pocket 10s. And it was the exact hand that I thought, it was going to be. It was 2 big cards, and then I went, holy shit, there's no paint on those. That's a set of 10s. And then he goes, I fold. And I go, you fold a set of 10s? And the dealer said, yeah, he's already folded. And I said, well, that's interesting. And he goes, will you show me? And I go, no, I'm not going to fucking show you. And I just tossed it away. The dealer, I gave him a little wink, and he actually looked at it, and he kept a very good poker face. And after I won the tournament, he came up and he was like, that was the most balls thing I ever saw. And I tried to explain to him it wasn't, because there was no reason for me to ever possibly think this guy had anything. So I was just trying to push him off of 1 pair, like an 8. You know what I'm saying? With my, ace 9, I think I had. Some ridiculous thing. I had like ace whatever that didn't help on the board. Maybe it was like ace 5 or something. And it just worked out because players love to make these big folds. I think it's easier to get a player like this to fold 6-4 than it is to get him to call with ace 6 right here. As silly as that sounds, because they want to look like the hero. So folding a big hand, that's a hero. When you get to go, I fold this. You know what I'm saying? But calling with a shit hand and being right is also a hero play. So you got to remember who you're up against. Fun quiz, and I'm glad she went to South Point, because I know those players. It's fun for me. Let's go to the next one.
Welcome, my friend.
Okay. It's Brad. Okay, if you don't know the history, this coach, I'm sure is a winning poker player at the level he plays. I am positive of it. I'm sure he's very talented. I haven't looked into him because I don't want to be upset by how much he's won versus how badly he coaches. Um, but we get the worst quizzes out of this guy because what he does is he's just creating content for the website. So he's playing 1-2 here. I guarantee you this professional player is not playing 1-2. Hey, what's up, Cosero? We got a Brad quiz, man. So prepare to get angry. Now, to be fair, in the last quiz I did of his, he was a little bit better, but these are the stakes that I play. So the things he says are retroactively perfect a lot, where he's like, in this situation, I'm going to check because I think that... No, it's not GTO. It's not fundamentally sound poker. It's garbage. So just take everything you hear from this coach with a grain of salt on these quizzes. I'm 100% certain he is a fantastic poker player and a winning poker player at a high level, but he's creating content at levels he doesn't play at anymore and hasn't played in quite a while, so I think it skews his perception. So let's check it out.
And Coach Brad here. This is a fun little hand that was played at 200 and no limit.
Now he's saying 200 NL. That's usually how you refer to these games live or online. You say 200 NL, you say 10 NL because that's your buy-in, right? I don't think this is going to be a live game. When you play live, you say 1-2 no limit because it's $1, $2 blinds. You know what I'm saying? You say 200 NL online because that's the max buy-in, and pretty much anybody competent is taking a max buy-in, topping up every hand. So it is always 200 NL. Live, you win a few chips, you lose a few chips, but the thing that doesn't change is the blinds. So I'm going to say that this is played live.
Under the gun in middle position fold, we open it to $5. You don't get a decision point there because
that's a too small bet at a 1-2. The Vegas residents should know I'll take it from you every day. Yeah, trust me. That's just the way it's done. But I can read into this guy saying 200 NL. 200 NL also this raise is not correct either. But live you would raise to at least 6 or 7. Opening because it's $1, $2. People open bigger. So let's see.
Because if you fold pre, that would make for a really boring quiz. The big blind flats. And now we head to a flop. There's $11 in the middle. We flop bottom to pair with a backdoor flush draw. Our opponent checks, and now the action is on you. Should you be betting $3? Should you be betting $6? Should you be betting the full amount of the pot? Choose your decision.
Live play is very different than online play. Online, I think I would bet this bigger. Live, occasionally I would try to bet small to induce a check raise, although the problem is that there's a lot of feasible draws here. So I'm going to split the difference, and I'm going to go $6. You're going to see a half pot bet. I do bet half pot live because players they're not really aware of what's in the pot, so you're just kind of based on building a pot here. So when I want to build a pot here and I don't want to scare the player off or play for stacks, I'm going to bet, right around the $6 area. So I think that's fine. Checking is ludicrous, and if this guy says we check, he has reconfirmed himself as the worst coach on this site.
Okay, so did you choose to bet $3, $6, or pot?
Yeah, this is live. No way online would you ever bet that.
10 simoleons go to those of you who opted to bet $6, about half the size of the pot. We want to size up to maximize value, deny some.
Okay, right there. That's not sizing up. Okay? If you were to size up this flop, you would go greater than 2/3. That's sizing up. Pot bet online, is that a thing? Yes, it is. Online, playing 200 NL, I would pot right at this. I haven't played much 200 NL. I used to play a lot of 100 NL. But 200 NL, I would pot right at this. Because I would be looking to get semi-bluffed and get all the money in. Because with this strong a hand, I could be up against 8-9, 8-10, 8-jack. Very few combos of 8-7, 8-6, and pocket 8s. I could even be getting a pair of 9s to get it all in here. And when you're playing cash, you want to take your best edges. So if somebody has, the worst case scenario here is the guy has 8-9 of spades or clubs, right? So he's got backdoor flush draws. He's got, top pair open ender. Even in those scenarios, he's got 11 outs immediately, which is 22% on the next card, 44% for the whole board to beat me. Now, if the next card comes off a deuce, he can pick up a deuce, right, which gives him now 14 outs, 28 on the river. So when we bet the pot here, we're pricing out those draws. Now, what makes it interesting is that when we bet pot for like 10 or 11, let's say, and he makes it 30, he's got 195 left. If we ram a jam right there, and that's exactly what I would do, believe it or not, you will get called by ace-8 here a ton. You'll get the 8-9 to fold, and you'll get the ace-8 to call. Insanely as that sounds. Because people think, oh, I just have the monster. And they don't realize I can have the overpair all day long. But, 6-7 is crushing that too. Yeah, and 25 NL. Exactly. It's definitely a thing. 25 NL, not so much. But yeah, you would see it very often. And I would have no problem getting all in on this flop in 25 up to 200 NL, I think, depending on who the players are. If I knew the players very well, I don't think they would fall for it. But if they were just some rando that I didn't know, that's exactly what I would do.
Equity, we don't want to bet the full size of the pot because then Villain's continuing range just becomes too tight for this to be a valuable hand to play in a multi-street game.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When we bet pot, his continuing range becomes too tight if he's correct. You got to remember, there's bad players at every level. So at 200 NL online, those are some very good players, but some people are just the spot. Some people are just a guy who has money, who are like, well, I don't want to play for $10 online, and $200, that's what I play live. And they just get destroyed because 200 live, is 1-2 no limit. That's the lowest limit you can possibly play. That's like playing 1 cent, 2 cent online. 200 NL online, you're playing with guys, you're playing with people you've seen on TV. Like, it's an insane gap in the money versus the play.
So right in the middle is the sweet spot. If you did bet $3, you got 3 points. So congratulations. Just don't bet pot here. Bet 6. Now our opponent check raises us 3x, who Villain is a reg. And I do want to mention that if you are going to size up, bet pot, bet 3/4, make sure that you're targeting a fish archetype who's likely to play passive and likely to call with a lot of hands you can get value from. Here, this is a reg 3x. Now the action is back on to you. Should you be calling here with your bottom 2 pair, or should you be bet 3-betting to $50? What should you do?
Okay. I don't like the way this coach classifies players. He says if this was a recreational player, a typical archetype, you would bet bigger, blah, blah. He says this guy's a reg. What kind of reg? Is he a good reg? Because I'm a reg, and I think I play pretty good. I got pretty good results to show it, Is he a bad reg? Just like one of those guys at South Point I was talking about who's been playing the same way for 30 fucking years and thinks that's how you get better is by playing more. And they just lose every fucking year of their life till they die. What kind of reg is he? So his description does nothing for me. I will tell you what I'm doing in this position versus those regular players. If this was a good reg, I want to say that it would make an impression on him. So maybe the call is best because they will continue bluffing. But I personally, against those bad regs, I'm 3-betting here to 50. Just because if we're up against the straight, well, that's a shame. But there's not enough combinations of hands outside of the straight that really beat us. So, yeah, he can have 8-7 and 8-6, but we have, those. So the most likely thing that's going on here is we are up against a 9. So I would raise, and honestly, I would make this like 75. I would not fuck around. I would say we're playing for all of it right now. If I make it 50, check this out. That puts 79 in the pot, and it costs him 32 to call. Okay? Let me show you how dumb this is. Okay? So there'll be 79 in the pot plus his 32 call. $111. Okay? So now he has to call $32 to win 111. Divide 32 by 111. He needs 28.8, so we'll say 29% equity. If he just has a 9, just a 9, he's got 8 outs for 16. If he has 9 in a pair, like an 8, then he has, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 outs against us. That's 26% on the very next card. And when the card comes off, he's going to win a ton. So this bet is too small. We're offering him too close of a price. Granted, it's not the correct price to draw immediately, but players don't think about it in terms of one card. They think about it in terms of the board. So this is way too small. I would bet 75 here. But since he only gave us the option of 50, let's do it.
So in my estimation here, bottom to pair is not a strong enough hand to start bet 3-betting with against a reg.
He's in the big blind. The deck is in his hand. Players are going to check raise you with top pair all the time. I did this and went out the other day with Jack 10 versus aces when aces raised in late position and the flop came off 10-4-3. I check raised on 18 big blinds and the guy, called it. I jammed the turn and then he had aces. This is a very common spot where you would check raise top pair. He scored at 0.
On this wet board.
Here's the thing. When you're scoring these quizzes, if he had given it like 6 points and said, look, that's true, but here's the reasons why, then I'd be with him. But he scores at 0, meaning you never do this. Out of his fucking mind.
If we do bet 3-bet and then get it in with bottom 2, we are going to be crushed. Equity.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You find out. So if we 3-bet to 50 and the guy jams for his total of 195, we can then fold. We can actually fold then if we feel like the player just has it. Or if he's that bad reg, we can call it because he's on the draw. And we like that. That's fine. This is overprotecting your stack. This is no.
Wise villain can have some gut shots here that they're choosing to check raise with. That they will fold if we bet 3-bet 250.
So now you're just talking about fantasies, gut shots that are check raising. What's the gut shot that check raises here? 10 jack at 200 live? No.
And if we bet 3-bet 250 and they shove, we're not in a good spot. So, in order to keep those potential bluffs in villain's range, you get the points for calling, and now we get the Queen of Hearts, and our opponent goes ahead and bets 40 into 47, so close to a full pot-sized bet. And now I'm going to ask you a question that you're probably not expecting. What should you do? Should you fold? Should you call?
On top of everything else, this guy's a douchebag. I'm going to ask you a question you shouldn't be expecting. Fuck off. It's a jam. It was a much bigger raise on the. It was a raise on the flop, and it's definitely a jam now, because we c-bet, got check raised, and then he bets the full pot. I mean, sometimes he has a queen here, but not often. So this guy's gonna say, oh well, he can never really continue if we jam. But the truth is, our player has defined his hand. He's told us he has something he's willing to go with. The most likely scenario being 8-9. This is a shove. I don't care what this guy says.
I hope you fully recovered from sweating that decision that I just lobbed up to you out of the blue about what you should do. The answer is going to once again be to call. If villain has those gut shots.
Imagine the villain has 8-10 or 8-jack. I mean, you're just allowing all this, or even 5-6. You're allowing all these hands to. This is not protecting your hand. You have to protect and get value. He's not getting. Here's the real problem. If the opponent is on a draw and misses the river, we're not getting any more value. He's going to make us. He might give up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's he going to do on the river when we call? It's $127 in the pot. He's got one bet left. Okay, when the river comes off, something like an ace, you know what I'm saying, let's say, or a deuce, let's make it easier. Is he going to jam into us after all this action on a bluff? No. Like, he's giving up. Like, this is not, oh, this is so infuriating.
Type hands, like I mentioned on the flop, that range is going to stay the same. We want to incentivize those gut shot type hands to continue putting money in on the river. If you
He's fantasizing about this guy having a gut shot. The only gut shot here is 10 jack. That's it. Like, that's ridiculous. What if the guy has queen 10? You just let him get there.
raise, once again,
You know, like he can hit a 10, a queen, an 8.
villain shoves, you're just donezo. Bottom two pair is way too strong to be folding here, so calling gets the points. You call. There's 127 in the pot, and there is 137 left behind.
I can't wait to see this
The
fucking
river
river.
is
Deuce.
a blank little deuce of diamonds, and our opponent says, "Let's roll, Daddy-O." They put all of the money in the middle, and now I'm going to throw it back to you. Do you fold, or do you call?
Okay, so at this point, you have gotten the luckiest you could possibly get by not letting a straight card come out on the turn. If a 9, a 10, a jack, a fucking a 4, or an 8 comes off on the turn of the river, you've wasted this hand. You just got the best plausible run out for your hand, because queen 9 is a thing. You know what I'm saying? So queen 9, queen 10, whatever like that. So now the player jams all in, and he's turning whatever he has into a bluff. So congratulations, you just got lucky. I can guarantee you this is one of those ones where he's doing the retroactively perfect. So my answer here is to call if I played it in this fucked up pussy manner, which I never would do. But in this exact scenario, you've gotten what you want. The hand is far too strong to fold. You call. If he says fold, I'm going to send an email to Jonathan Little, because you can email him right through the site, and I'm going to point this one out to him if this guy says to fold here.
So for those of you who have been paying attention to my narration over the course of this quiz, you should know that the preferred method of battle here on the river.
I guarantee you this player's going to roll over a gut shot. He's probably going to have this guy roll over exactly 10 jack or ace 10 of spades, and this is a retroactively perfect hand. At no point should you have played it this way.
That gets you the points is to call. We must call with our bottom two pair. If you think about it, you don't have a lot of stronger hands to call this river with. If you flopped a straight, it's likely that we would have been raising the turn.
Really? So you're telling me if I have 9-10, the pure nuts, and somebody betting into me after a check raise. Wow. Nice spam bot. Coach needs some lessons from Jonathan Little. He really does. Okay, so this guy... How do I ban this fucker? Block. Yeah, I don't need to buy followers, bro. I got followers. I need subscribers. You got some of those? Jackass. Yeah, this is just ridiculous, this guy.
If you flopped a set,
I just want to see what the hand is. I'm saying he's going to be retroactively perfect. It's going to be ace 10 or 10 jack.
it's possible that you raise the turn. So we do have some sets in our range, 6s and 7s, potentially 8s that are better than 6-7 suited here. Villain is representing a polarized range. Because of that, and we're getting 2-1 on the river, we need to win 33% of the time. I believe that we will, just can't really find a fold. So we put the money in, and our opponent shows
Oh
up
wow,
with
ace 10.
diamonds, which is a hand that's fairly unexpected because the expectation is that the villain would be 3-betting ace 10 suited. However, if they are taking this line with ace 10 of diamonds, a gut shot with backdoor diamond draw, it isn't too much of a stretch of the imagination to believe that they're also doing this with a hand like ace 10 off, right? Same gut shot, just not the backdoor flush possibility. So getting 2-1 at 33%, we put the money in. Villain had a bluff, and the good guys took this one down. Thank you for playing along in this poker coaching quiz. Coach Brad out of here.
Notice I said ace-10 of spades for the gut shot and backdoor flush draw, and it's ace-10 of diamonds. He even discounted the fact that there was backdoor diamonds. This is just a retroactively perfect hand. This is throwing caution to the wind, is what this is. This is a bad reg. If you classify this as a bad reg, the hand plays differently. But even then, you're going to raise that turn. I tell you what. Because here's the thing. You're going to get a call. You're going to get an E-call. So, meaning an embarrassment call. So when he bets 40 on the turn and you make it 100, he's going to call that for that stupid gut shot. Then when he misses the river, yeah, you don't get it all, but you guarantee getting more because he didn't puss out on the river. Because, like I said, he's just going to puss out on the river most of the time when he gives up if it's a deuce. I actually said it, if it's a deuce. Ugh, this guy's just trash. Don't ever take this guy's quizzes. I think we did the next one. Yeah, I did the next one yesterday.
Kings in a $5,000 buy-in tournament. That's good. Facing an under-the-gun raise from a player who started with only 20 big blinds.
Come on.
Should we
go back to quizzes? I did this one yesterday, or the day before, something like that. This is a fun one, but I've already done it. So let's go to and look, Jonathan Little, fundamentally sound poker. I scored it perfectly. How do you like that? If you look at Brad's fucking scores, check this out. This is the same guy. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Like, he's the only one I score zeros on. Not this guy. This is good Brad. This is Brad Owen, the vlogger. But it's just fucking hilarious to me how bad that guy fucking is. But let's just go on and play with Assassinato here. 1,000, 2,000 blinds. Our stack is very small. Wow, 59 or 52.99. Jack 8 offsuit. We're in the big blind. Yeah, the cutoff raises. Or the cutoff is the opponent's position. Who knows if he raised? If he limped, we can actually check. Well, let's see what the flop is. So let's see what the hand is.
In this hand, you're playing a $55 buy-in, 80,000 guaranteed on a large international network. You have Jack 8 offsuit in the big blind. The villain in the cutoff is a pretty damn loose aggressive reg. You have 5,299 chips. Blinds are 1,000, 2,000 with an ante of 250. Pre-flop, would you like to fold, call, raise to 6,000, or move all in?
Okay, Assassinato is super smart. I think if you want to maximize your fold equity here, if you jam in pre-flop, you're jamming for a total of 72.99, which means this player has to call 2 big blinds. He's wildly stacked up. So we obviously have 0 fold equity against him. So personally, I'm going to call and do a stop and go, meaning when the flop hits, if it's not objectively bad for me, I'm just going to rip it. Objectively bad meaning like a 6 high flop. If it's any card, if there's 2 cards 9 or higher, I'm going to jam it. And we're going to try to get folds out of ace high. So, yeah, that's the only way I can see to play this if you just don't just jam it pre-flop.
We go ahead and call. We'll discuss each decision at the end of the lesson. The flop comes ace-9-3, all spades. There's 11,250 in the middle. Here, would you like to check, bet 2,000, bet 3,000, or move all in?
We're so short, we're going to have one move. Now, our opponent is a loose, aggressive player. He should just be putting us in 100% of the time, unless he's truly scared of this board. And if that's the case, he's going to check behind. So if he has just a spade in his hand, he's never going to fold to us. So, believe it or not, this is a check. Because we're going to wait to see that he checks and then jam turns or rivers.
We go ahead and make it 3,000 here. Let's break down this entire hand. So this is a little thing I've always wanted to talk about with you guys because I really want this in your toolbox. This is something you can do when people are multi-tabling and not paying a ton of attention. So here, pre-flop, before the raise, there's 52.50 in the middle. You have about that back. And you have a hand that does really well versus a wide opening range, or well enough, right? And the small blind is the next hand. It's going to take something with you. It is fine to gamble here, right? Especially versus somebody who could be raising 6-8 suited or something along those lines. So it comes around you. Now, something you can do with multi-tablers, I'm going to let you know right away, it didn't work here. But you call here, and then when the flop comes out, don't give them a ton of time to think, because then they might actually like look at the pot size or something, or the flop size. Excuse me, your stack size. You just lead out 3K, and there's a lot of times when people are just going really quick, where they see they missed the board, and this happens to multi-tablers. They don't realize they raise pre-flop. That's the number one thing you have to pay attention to when you're multi-tabling, because it's really easy if you're playing like 8, 12 tables as a lot of loose aggressive guys. People who play loose aggressive, they like the action. So they like to play more tables a lot of the time. So if they're playing a ton of tables, the thing you always have to pay attention to is who's the raising party. And sometimes you can just get confused when you have things going on, and they'll be like, oh, you see bet, I missed the board. Okay, I folded. I'll fold. And then it's not till a second later they're like, oh my God. Oh my God, I can't believe I fell for that. And it works a lot. It works a lot. And it's better you don't jam. You do the biggest bet you can that looks normal.
Right.
And it's better you don't jam. This looks like you could...
The reason for not jamming is because when it says all in, he just counts the number and goes, oh, call. But when you bet 3,000, it doesn't state that you're all in. He may not look at your stack. That's the move here.
Be c-betting in position. And, you know, people get disoriented. And then there's other times they don't really know if they're supposed to continue. So what actually happened in this hand is he took a very long time. So my hope is...
And then he said, fuck it.
I kind of caught him confused. And he took a very long time. And if I'm not mistaken, actually went into the time bank and finally jammed. We obviously are calling, getting bazillion to 1. And he had king 7 of diamonds, but the fact that
almost
he considered
worked.
Folding that means there is a folding range there.
Yeah.
And that is incredible, because what most people do is they just go, oh yeah, I got to go with this hand anyway, pot odds wise. Okay, great. And then they just throw the money in. It's like, if you're going to risk all your chips anyway, give yourself the chance to manufacture some fold equity. And there are situations in tournaments where stalling with these multiple actions might be good for you, so that could also be another benefit as well.
Yeah, honestly, hey, good morning, Leslie. How you doing? How you doing over there in Norway? Yeah, it's interesting. I think because of this specific flop, I like the check better, because we are going to see a check back from King 7. Then this move works perfectly on the turn. Now, granted, we gamble, but I think because it's a monotone flop, meaning all spades, I think we actually have more fold equity by checking and betting the turn. Now, obviously, if he just jams the flop, we're just, we can actually fold, believe it or not. But I think in this specific, I know what he's trying to say, because I've played that move. He's right. And usually it happens when a guy is super big stacked and everybody else is kind of on the starting stack. This is a little late in the tournament for that. Maybe if you're in the cash, this works. This works very effectively on the bubble, because you wouldn't be risking, you know what I'm saying? Like, players will just call with an ace, 10 here or something, and then just, lead out the flop with the ace and say, well, if you can beat an ace when I have one here in this exact scenario, then fine. But I like this play. I use this play. And, yeah, I think it's fine. I think specifically because it's monotone, I think it's a little different this time. Like, if this is the 3 of diamonds, then I love the 3,000 bet for sure. But whatever.
Hey everyone, Lexi Gavin here, and today we're going to go over a hand that I played at a 5-10 no limit cash game, sitting with $1,000, so 100 big blinds effect.
See how she called it a 5-10 no limit cash game? That means it's live. Lexi Gavin, far better cash game player than I am, and she knows the terms.
It folds around to the button, who I have labeled as a loose aggressive player. He opens it up to $30. I remember this player was opening a ton of hands, especially every single button. So definitely something to keep in mind. So the small blind folds, and what would you do here with Jack 4 of hearts? Fold, call, or raise to 100?
So typically, when you have a loose aggressive player, you want to be 3-betting them a ton. I'm going to go to the charts because 100 big blinds effective in the big blind. I kind of want to see. I don't think Jack 4 is on the raising range, but I kind of want to see what it is because I'm going to make adjustments versus a loose player. So GTO cash. We are at 100 big blinds. Our position is the big blind. We are facing a raise from the opponent on the button. So where does Jack 4 lead in here? So Jack 4 of spades is a call 100% of the time. And it doesn't really get to a 3-bet until we get to like Jack 6, Jack 7, Jack 8, Jack 9. Yeah, I think I'm going to 3-bet this one. We didn't get a sizing, though. Now I'm playing the game in the game. You know what? I do think it's... The player's loose aggressive. I think maybe because of our hand's value, we can stick to the... We'll stick to the chart. I'm going to go with call. Not my worst day, and Yoda of poker is good. Yes. Yeah, so let's call. I think there's a real case to be made for raising here, but our hand might just be a little too weak, even versus a loose aggressive player. I think I would fudge the numbers by like 1 or 2 spots. So if Jack 9 is a 3-bet and Jack 8 is a 3-bet, only 20 or 2/3 of the time, Jack 7 2/3 of the time, Jack 6 about half the time, I would probably start 3-betting around Jack 7. Me personally, because I wouldn't know in my head this chart. But I think Jack 7, because it's suited and is gapped to a straight, you make 10-9-8 for a 7 to Jack straight. I think I would start 3-betting there. I know I would be 3-betting Jack 8 versus a very loose aggressive player. So I think in this specific instance, I am going to call. Interestingly, because there's a lot of moves you can make against these players too when you flop something.
So this isn't really typically standard, but I think this is a good spot to 3-bet. I don't like flatting here. I think that this hand is just a little bit too weak to play out of position. It's not a very good hand. I know, it's suited, so it's deceiving, but really Jack 4 is just...
If she gave me a size, I think I played the game within the game where I'm playing the quiz. I kind of do that sometimes. So she didn't give us a size for a bet, so I think I leaned towards call a little bit too much. But I wouldn't know to 3-bet this, to be fair. In live, I would kind of overvalue the hand, even though this is a loose aggressive player. But if I'm playing 5-10 live, I probably have proper bankroll, so maybe I would.
It's a pretty garbage hand, so I would rather c-bet, 3-bet, and take this down pre-flop. What I like about 3-betting with a jack high is that it blocks some of his calls, so some of his ace jack, king jack, pocket jack, queen jack type hands. So I think it's a good spot for a 3-bet. He does make the call, and the flop is queen 6-6 rainbow with 1 heart, so we have backdoor hearts. So what would you do? Would you check here, bet 75, or bet $150?
I think if you had a queen here, betting range would be smart. If you actually had the queen, you'd probably want to check to let the loose aggressive player bet. There is a move here where you check raise on this flop. But I think we just stick to this story and go 1/3 pot. That's what most players are going to do with a queen.
So I definitely think we should c-bet here. Our hand really isn't strong enough to go into check call mode, and it wouldn't be good if we just checked and then he bet any 2 cards and we would have to fold. And I do think if he had, just some random connecting cards like 8-7 or 8-9 or 9-10 and things like that, would probably just snap fold the flop. Maybe he would call if he had backdoor flush draw with it, but those hands probably just going to snap fold the flop. He is going to have some pairs in his range and some queen X combos, considering he did call a 3-bet pre-flop. But we do have some backdoor flush equity with our hearts, so if a heart peels on the turn, we can continue barreling. And I do think, like I said, in the event he just has some random cards, that we are going to get a lot of folds on this flop. So there's 205 in the pot. I like going small here, about a third pot. Paired dry boards, I just typically go smaller. And he does make the call. The turn is the deuce of clubs. What do you think we should do here? Do you think we should check, bet 225, or bet 150?
I don't like 150. I think if we're going to go for the 3-barrel, we go bigger here. We go 2/3 on the turn, and then we set up the river jam. Because if we bet 225, he puts it in. That's 450. That's 5, 6, 7, 8 in the pot, and we'll have. Well, wait a minute. Now we'll have 600 left. So that's a little off. If we bet 150 here, that puts 300. That puts 655 in the pot, and we'll have 675. So maybe that's more correct. There's a lot to be said here for checking, though. But here's the thing: versus a loose aggressive player, he's floating us here. If we check, if we bet the flop here, he's floating. So I think betting twice is important because we're going to get floated, meaning he has nothing. And he wants to see us bet again. And if we check, he's just going to bet us right off the pot. So I think we're fighting for this one. 150 is really nice, but it's small for the turn. Although if we had ace-queen or king-queen, that 3-bet, we wouldn't want to scare him away, really. Oh, God. This is a tough one, man. Like, these bets are so close together. But if we bet 150 and he calls, that puts 655 in the pot. That puts 675 in our stack. Yeah, then we can full pot jam the river. Yeah, it's better than having 800 in the pot and we jam for 600. So I think I'm learning something at this moment, unless I'm just overthinking it. I think the bet here is 150. And this beard here will not get off my desk. So let's bet 150.
So the deuce isn't a very good card for us to continue barreling on. We didn't turn any equity, so it's not like the deuce of hearts, which we probably would continue betting. And with the deuce, it's just going to be harder for him to fold small pairs here.
My problem is he's a loose aggressive player, so our plan is to be taking the aggressive action away from him. Although I see what she's saying, and checking makes sense, because if we go bet with a king-queen or queen-jack or something, check the turn, he checks back, we bet the river, that works a lot. I just don't think we're up against a player who's ever going to bet the turn, and he's going to be very prone to floating us on the flop. So,
like, if there was a scare card on the turn, like an ace or a king, I could see betting. If it was a jack, we would probably just check to pot control and probably call, check the river and then probably call a bet. But I don't think the deuce really changes the board texture at all. So in the event he did have a hand like pocket 5s or pocket 7s, I don't necessarily think we're going to get a fold with that. Maybe we would. We would have to go pretty big. But I think it's time to just check, hope that he checks back, and then sometimes we could consider bluffing the river. But he does bet 120. I kind of gave away the answer here, but what do you think we should do? Do you think we should fold or call or raise to 450?
We're obviously never folding, and I got to say, I kind of missed it where I think she's saying to fold. But if we want to fight for this pot, the raise to 475 is a great bet. Because now our hand just looks like a 6, right? It looks like ace 6. Like we bet small on the flop. He sticks around. We check the turn. We bait him into betting. And then we bet the turn. We check raise the turn. But I guess she gave away the answer. So I guess it's just fold.
Yeah, so here I think we have to give up. We gave it the old good college try, 3-betting pre-flop, but we are going to have to fold here. Whether he has it or not, I say we just have to give it away. Like I said, if there was a scare card on the turn, like an over card, I would consider betting. Even if it was like a 10, a king, or an ace, I'd say we can consider betting. Probably not a queen, because a queen, well, we could maybe consider betting the turn with the queen, because then his under pairs would have been counterfeited, but we might get called by ace highs, so we would have to choose a pretty big sizing. But, I really think he has something between pocket 7s to pocket 10s probably. That definitely makes sense. He could even have a 6 here. I think he's got some 5-6, 6-7 type hands in his range here. So I think it's best to just give it away. So we folded and moved on. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this quiz. On to the next.
I mean, it's fine. The problem is when I classify a loose aggressive player, I'm thinking about the fact that they're going to float me on all flops and bet all turns when I check. So personally, I've set up a 3-bet. I'm going to bet till I get resistance. And if I bet the turn for 150, if the guy has a 6, he's going to raise because he's going to be convinced I have a queen and his 6 is good. If he has a queen, I don't know if he's raising. Depends on how good it is. But if he has a 10, or if he has pocket 10s or 9s, he's just going to call me. And then when the river comes off and I make the big river jam, he's just going to sit there and go, well, I can't beat a fucking queen. So I think this was a good spot for a bet, but I don't know. I'm not going to say I disagree with Lexi. I think she's way too, much higher level than me in this situation. Cash game poker at a much higher level than I play. So maybe it's just smart to, as she said, take a shot, 3-bet, C-bet, and give it up on the turn. I don't love it, though. But then again, I don't play these stakes. So, I think this is one we can take with kind of a grain of salt. She is, now you got to remember, all Lexi's quizzes, she is a woman, so she gets played against differently. She's going to be facing a lot more aggression. So maybe there's something there when the guy bets small on the turn, she can get a much easier read that he has a 6. Because when women face, women do face more aggression on average than everybody else. When she does that, and faces that small bet, it's not proper aggression to push you off. So I think with that knowledge, I think it seems like she probably made the right fold now that I think about it, because you have to think about who's sitting in that chair, and I think that makes more sense for her to fold there. So I now agree 100%. If it's me sitting in the chair and that happened, I'm probably check raising, because that's improper aggression, trying to look like too specific a hand. Like if you had 6s there, a 6 there, like a6 or something, and you called me on the flop, on the turn you would bet bigger. Because, with men, it's a lot of, dick waving contests. So when you bet bigger, you're more likely to get called by a queen. When you bet smaller, you're more likely to... The theory is that you should think you're up against a 6. The truth is you're just a guy taking a free shot at me. So then my check raise is much more effective. So I think if we consider the fact that it was Lexi sitting in the seat and not me, I think she's 100% correct, actually, now that I take that insight to it. So interesting, and it's always good to study people with different backgrounds and different genders and stuff like that, because they do play the game differently based on their own experience. It's like Johnny Chan, always talks about how after he won the World Series, he had the best cash game year of his life because, and it repeated itself after Rounders came out, because everybody, like the movie said, was just giving their money away to him because he was the fucking world champion. And they represented that in the movie very well, because he said that happened again after the movie came out. He said it was actually hilarious. He said Rounders gave him like a $3 million pay jump in the year that it came out, because they would say, oh, it's Johnny Chan. And all he would have to do is play tight, and people would just pay him off for like a year. It was fucking crazy. Let's do another one here.
All right, today's hand.
Matt Affleck.
King 9 off in the cutoff. Playing 30 big blinds effective. It's going to fold to us here in the cutoff. We're going to raise it up to 2 big blinds. Button's going to call. Nothing too much to talk about pre-flop there, so not going to ask. Standard raise for us in the cutoff. The flop comes Jack 10-8 with 2 spades. Should we check, bet 600, bet 1200, or bet 1800?
I don't know what these blinds are, and he's got it set up on blinds, not cash. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the third pot bet. I think it's probably 600. I didn't pay attention to what the blinds were. I was just looking at the numbers of blinds. So it sounds a little low, but I think it's a third pot standard C bet here. It's fine.
All right, to start off here, in general, when you raise in cutoff and the button flats, we're going to be checking a lot as our general strategy. So if you don't have any real baseline to go from, in general, you're going to be checking more often than you're betting. The reason is we're opening around 35% of the hands from the cutoff. The button's only flatting maybe like 15 to 17% of hands. So basic way to think about it, we're playing 35% of hands, they're playing 17% of hands. They're going to have a range advantage because we have much more air on most flops, even though we have the stronger, overpairs and stuff that they don't have. So that's number one. Number two, especially on these connected boards, we'll be checking a lot. They just don't have a lot of air. Both players connect a lot on this board. Now, if you look up in a solver here, the King 9 here is pretty much a split between check and bet small. There's no large betting on these boards, and in a lot of these situations out of position, you don't do a lot of large betting, especially on these connected boards. A lot of people think you should bet large. That's not the case. You shouldn't really be doing any large betting. The reason is the button doesn't have much air in this range. When you bet small, it's a very clean strategy for the in-position player. They got to call, everything they have either has a pair, a flush draw, a straight draw, something other than like deuces through sevens, and like suited aces. There's nothing really that has like a tough decision. If you bet two big blinds here, they're really not going to be making too many mistakes. So I like checking more because I think it's more likely our opponent makes a mistake, rather than when we bet. It's a pretty easy strategy. Now again, going back, the reason we don't want to bet large is we tighten up the button's range too much. It's a very easy strategy for them to defend against. The larger we bet, the more they're going to fold. They just have to defend with pairs.
Which is why if you had King Jack in this scenario, you would bet larger because you're protecting your hand and you're less likely to be beat, so you don't want to let draws come off. So you would bet larger with top pair King Kicker here, rather than the draw. Checking to also maintain your equity and realize it on the turn when he bets the flop small, I think is pretty smart. So I agree with this. And like he said, it's close. You can go 1/3 c-bet, you know what I'm saying? Based on our stack sizes, I guess we should be checking because neither one of us is hugely stacked up and we'd rather realize our equity at this point. And he's right because we're out of position. This is like if you're in the small blind and you 3-bet and then the big blind cold called it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're out of position and they have a better, tighter range than you. So interesting, definitely.
Flush draws and straight draws, they don't have to do anything heroic, and it's just they're not going to be making a mistake, and there's not much EV in betting versus in other lines versus a small bet they can possibly overfold. It's difficult though on this flop, which is why I like checking. King 9 is one of the hands that we do bet here, decent amount. It is a split, but I prefer checking just slightly more because I think it's more likely our opponent is going to make mistakes.
Sorry this sounds so low, guys. It's on the quiz.
We do check here, and our opponent bets 3.5 big blinds. Should we fold, call? Let me change this to raise to 2,500, raise to 4,000, or go all in.
I'm saying the half pot bet means nothing. I think there's merits to raising and calling, although I think in this exact scenario, because we have the 9 of spades and the queen not only makes us a straight, but it makes us the nut straight, you know, because ace queen's not really out there. If it is, we would have it. I think we just call here. Definitely a case for a check raising, though. But I'm not very familiar with check raising from the cutoff versus the buttons, so it's just a spot that I haven't studied because it doesn't come up very much. But I think I'm just going to call here.
Facing this half pot bet, we have two options, basically call or raise. I don't think folding is ever an option with our hand. We have a pretty clean defending strategy. We're just folding our pairs. We're folding, just the strongest hands we're going to fold here are like some of our eights, like ace 8 and king 8 with no back doors. We can fold some 10x too that doesn't have any back doors to this larger bet size. If they bet smaller, like 600, which is actually the preferred size, then we don't fold any of those hands. We have a very clean defending strategy. But against this larger bet, we get to kind of clean up our defense here. Our hand versus this larger size is just going to be a pure call. This larger size should be a bit more polarized. I don't see them betting like a hand like Ace-8 for this sizing. This is more of a Jack-X or better sizing in my opinion. I don't think we see like King-10 betting here for half pot, probably checking back. Versus a small size, maybe they are betting something like that. Our hand would raise some of the time against a small size, but when they bet this larger half pot size here, we just want to call. We don't want to check raise here and get blown off our equity. If they shove, we just want to call, make sure we realize our equity, and see what happens on later streets. We do call. We get the ace of clubs on the turn. Should we check, bet 1,200, bet 2,200, bet 3,000, or go all in?
This ace is better for our range than his range. We can have all the suited aces. We can also have all the overcards. We can have all the king queens. We can have all the ace, tens. We can have all the ace kings, ace queens. So I think this is a very clear check because our opponent is going to slow down a lot, and they're just going to check back if they have something like Jack 9 or just a weak 10 or king 10 or something like that. They're going to back off, and the good majority of the time when they have showdown value but no draw. But if their draw hit king queen, they're going to probably bet, and we can then make no mistakes by folding. So I like checking here a lot.
So this is an interesting card on the turn. We probably have more ace-X than our opponent, but this is a situation we're probably going to want to check. I actually don't mind leading here. I think it's close between a check and a lead here. We're going to be check calling hands like ace king and ace queen, ace 10, ace 8, ace jack. Our opponent will have some of those hands, but since they bet larger on the flop, it's much less likely they have a hand like ace 10 or ace 8, whereas if they bet really small, like 600, they could be more likely to have that hand. So I think leading for 1,200 here is a reasonable option. We would be probably more likely to lead here if we had the king of spades blocking some of the flush draws that would continue. So having the king of spades would make this a very, very nice lead. It's still a reasonable hand to lead with here. We want to lead with some ace kings and ace queens. We have some two pairs. So I don't mind leading, but if we lead, we're just leading small. Again, out of position, we're just doing a lot of small betting here. I choose to check here, and we face this 1,200 chip bet. Should we fold, call, raise to 3,000, or go all in?
Tough one. Very tough one. I think... God, that's tough. So, he's betting small on the turn. I feel like there's a lot of times where we're just drawing dead to a chop, meaning the king-queen is there. He didn't 3-bet us, though, so let's take that one out of the equation. I think we're behind, but not intensely. Like, he could have a hand like king-10 or 8-9 or something like that. I don't think he has an ace very much, and betting small out when this ace hits, it's kind of not great for us. God, that's tough because we're supposed to have all the aces. So unless he just spiked 2 pair, he's representing a straight. Maybe he's trying to goad us into a raise, like betting small. Because checking, although if you had the monster here, you would just check, right? Because you're in position. The other guy's going to take a shot. Yeah, I feel like we might be ahead. I feel like we might be up against like another 9. Yeah, there's so few though. Like 9-6 really is only the only one that we're not beating right now. I don't think I want to give it up yet because there's a lot of river cards that I can bet on, especially like a spade. I don't know. And in game, when I really don't know, I fold. Although, if we do the math, it costs us 1,200 to win, what is that, 53, 55, 6,500? So if our straight outs are pure, we have 8 outs. That's 16%, and we're getting more than that on the pot. It's close. It's close. We could just be up against the jack too, right? Like a hand like Queen Jack or Jack. I don't know, whatever. We could be up against like King 10, in which case our 10 isn't clean. But yeah, I for some reason I'm leaning towards a call here. This just seems a little fishy. And we are getting the direct odds. We need 16% if it's just our straight outs that are good. Our clean straight outs are only 12%, so that makes a case for a fold. But I don't know if this is a flush draw ever. I don't know if the flush draw bets the flop. So I'm going to call in this specific instance. This is a tough one, though.
We have a tough spot here on the
fold's
turn.
Better.
And I think it's really close between fold and shove. And the reason I don't like calling is out of position, we have to fold more draws like this. Whereas if we were in position with this hand, we'd have a very easy call.
Yeah.
Being out of position, it's much harder for us to get value when we hit our hand. We have to check. We have to hope they bluff when we hit our hand, or we have to value bet. It's just a lot harder to win chips when we're out of position here. So we're going to do a lot more folding. Now, if this was a larger bet, this would be a very easy fold.
This is a good example of why I do these quizzes before I play poker. I just leveled myself off of it. I didn't even consider jamming. And that jamming here is absolutely the play. Much more so than calling. Folding is probably just as good as jamming.
But what makes this tough is we're facing a very, very small bet. We're getting very good pot odds.
Yeah.
Shoving is reasonable here, and folding is very reasonable here. And we need to really be thinking about how often is our opponent bluffing here. If you look at the solver here, our opponent here on the button is supposed to be bluffing with hands like pocket deuces, pocket threes, pocket fours, and they're supposed to be betting polarized for value with a lot of ace-x hands, not a lot of jack-x, and they bet some of their draws. In my opinion, I just don't think the button is bluffing enough here to justify an all-in.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to be bluffing into too strong of a range against really aggressive opponents who can find the necessary bluffs. I think bluffing all in here with King 9 makes a lot of sense. But in a lot of low to mid stakes games, I think people are just playing pretty straightforward in this spot. And we can just go ahead and check fold this hand and really not worry about it too much. I did shove here. I mean, in theory, I think it's a very reasonable play. But in practice, I just don't think people are bluffing enough here on the button. And then we can just make an exploitable fold. My opponent did fold here, so I got away with it. But I think this might be a little too loose and aggressive.
I like that. He acknowledged that they were very close, but the one that ekes out better is the fold rather than the shove, even though he won the hand. You know what I'm saying? That's a self-aware coach, man. Brad wouldn't do that. Brad would be like, oh, well, the best move here is to jam because it worked, you know, and shit like that. But this is an introspective poker player, Matt Affleck, who looks for the realistic best scenario, and in this scenario, he's right. It's very, very close. It's very, very close. But folding or jamming, it's like 10 points for folding, 9 points for jamming, because you are going to get a lot of folds when the ace hits and the player has just something like King Jack. You know what I'm saying? Queen Jack too, but not so much in practice. 10-9, of course, folds. But I think he's right, because there's a fair amount of time where we're just going to be jamming into a hand that's too strong to fold, like 2-pair, you know, ace-10, jack-10, ace-8, or like a combo draw with like a pair, so like the King Jack of spades. You know what I'm saying? It's just, he's right. There's too many defending hands that didn't 3-bet that we're going to make them play perfectly when we jam. But it is very close, and I really like that about Matt Affleck, is that he's introspective, and he says, you know, I won this hand, but it's not the best play. So, nice. Here's a little something for you guys. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. This is my new nails. Courtney did these last night. My birthday's tomorrow, so she wanted to make sure that my nails look pretty, and I like them. This is that gray acrylic, so the whole nail is that gray color, you know, the acrylic powder that they put on, and then she just did some nice swirls here with these colors that I picked out, and I really like them. Yeah, they fire. They definitely fire. I definitely like this set a lot. I didn't really love them last night, but I really love them now. I think the color choice is pretty awesome. I don't know how well you can see it on my actual hand, but yeah, I like them a lot, and yeah, they look great. And look at my cuticles, man. Her business is called Cuticle Envy for a reason. Look how healthy my cuticles are. If you want to see the difference, my hand that doesn't have them is just destroyed. Your wife is a beautician and nail specialist. She's actually a certified nail tech. While the rest of us were in quarantine just getting fat, she decided to chase a lifelong dream and figured out that we could send her to nail school 60% of the time on Zoom, and then they had to do practicals 2 days a week. So she would go into the school, and they had COVID restrictions, from the very start, very strict. And she never got COVID. This was done way before the vaccine was even a talking point. And, they kept everything very safe and all like that. So she's a certified nail tech. If you want to see all of her work, ! Nails. It explains why I wear nails, and it also has her website on it, so you can check out all of her work. We made sure to do her license and her equipment differently so that she can travel anywhere. So she has a travel table, and all her equipment's packed up very easily, and very professional, very well done. And it is a starting business, so it's slow, but she's building some good clients, man. She's getting a lot of good work, and over the next 3 days, I think she's got like 7 or 8 clients because there's a fucking wedding that she was able to score. So it's pretty crazy. Nice. My mom is an all-around beautician, nail specialist for 20 years. Love the work she does, man. Nice. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm very proud of her. She's it was one of those things where she's done her nails, her own nails her whole life, and then she decided she wanted to go to school. And I was kind of like, okay, because, who knows? Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. After like 2 weeks, I saw how into it she was. So I was like, well, she's definitely going to graduate. And then after like a month, I saw like the talent when she was given the tools to create the art that she wanted. She's actually very good. And I compare her to other nail techs, and I don't know much about nails, but she's very, very good. And yeah, those are pretty much picture perfect, man. The curve on those is pretty awesome. You can tell by the shimmer in the light. But yeah, so those are my birthday nails. My birthday is tomorrow. I think I'm going to play today, just in case. Yeah, you know how good the nails look. You're getting compliments, babe. People love your work. She's in the bathroom. Yeah, she is very good. She's very talented, and her fundamentals are super impressive to me. Just her general ability. And she provides a nice experience, too. It's a luxury experience. So, very proud of her. Anyway, I think today is a play day. I'm going to come back around 2:30 or 3 Vegas time. That's in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I think we're going to play some MTTs. Unless I get into an editing thing where I just want to put out the next Jedi Mind Trick. But Wednesday is my birthday. I don't know if I'm playing yet. Don't really have anything planned, but who knows? I might just feel very, goofy and weird on my birthday and not want to play. So all good. You'll be here then. Nice. See you next time, Gray Fox. Good to see you. I'm going to pass you guys off to another poker player here. I think Tonka's Tonka's there. So stick around for the host. And if I don't come back later, I'll see you in the morning at noon Vegas time for the next Wake Up With Me. See you later.